Friday phone-in. Friday because we're still, even though it might be hanging by a thread, we are still participating in European competition. So Thursday nights for the time being are still dominated by Hibs in Europe, and the Fridays by the Friday phone-in. We'll start off tonight. I think probably the best place to start would just be to acknowledge the sad news coming out of Easter Road sort of late last night, early this morning, which was the passing of Rod Petrie. Obviously, he spent a long time at the club, a very, very significant figure at the club. Ian, you were first on, so I'm going to come to you first. What were your thoughts on and your feelings about what that news today?
Yeah, my immediate thoughts, and excuse the background noise, my immediate thought was, my God, he was only 2 years older than me. I always regarded Rod as being a figure of stability, authority. To a certain extent, he seemed like the old guard to me, especially when he had his SFA position. So it was obviously important as far as the establishment of the Premier League is concerned, and he was obviously for our club. He gave us financial stability, but I definitely saw him as someone in the old guard. He obviously was in charge when we were shipping head coaches or managers in and out rapidly. So I didn't really see Rod as being anything other than somebody that looked after the books, and for that, he gets great credit. But we were lurching from one thing to the other. He's got to get credit for obviously his involvement with Tom Farmer. He's got to get involvement. He's got to get credit for the stadium being finished, and of course he's got to get enormous credit for getting the training centre in place. So somebody that brought stability to the club, somebody that wasn't going to be a foresighted guy who would set a sort of strategy, and I think he was just a safe pair of hands. But give him enormous credit for the time he presided over the run of the club.
Yeah, well said. Joe, what are your memories of Rod Petrie's time?
I think Ian said most of it. The expression "a safe pair of hands" comes to mind. And if you look at all the foundation stones that he's laid, and what's the training ground, getting Easter Road finished, and all, a lot happened under his tenure. When you stop and draw a breath and think about it, I'm doffing my cap to him, God rest his soul. But he did a lot for the Hibs.
And he was renowned for keeping a tight ship, wasn't it? I think his mantra was, we'll spend £1 less than we take in. It was definitely a case of we have to be self-sustainable. But
absolutely, and I'm sure he'll be well remembered by all that's anything to do with Hibs.
Yeah, well said. Stephen, I'll come to you next and just get your thoughts on Rod Petrie.
Yeah, it's very, very sad news, and it's quite poignant that it was so soon after Sir Tom as well. It kind of feels like a little bit of the club's died through the two of them passing. Most of my life has probably been taken up by Rod Petrie being quite high up within Hibs, and best way to describe Rod Petrie is he was there through the good and the bad. Some very good. Obviously, I saw my first trophy lift under Rod's tenure. As Ian pointed out, the stadium's now by some distance the best stadium in Edinburgh. The training ground, we have a training ground, unlike some other clubs in Edinburgh as well, I should add. So there's definitive foundations being laid there. And since Rod and Sir Tom obviously did the scouting mission to make sure the Gordons were coming in and it was going over to good hands, that the clubs went a bit more, we'll spend £2 for every pound we earn. That's kind of how it's felt like under the Gordons.
Yeah.
We're kind of seeing the other side of how a club with maybe a little bit more blind ambition almost, where they throw good money at bad. It's we've seen both sides of the coin, and I think it's fair to say that both options have their positives and their negatives, Mike. But it's very, very sad news. And for me, growing up, he was he was part of the club, and I actually met him once. I won tickets for the cup replay against Hearts the year we won the cup. So I only ever met him once, and he was quite a quiet man. He was actually very, very nice as well. He was very, very pleasant despite everything you heard about him. So it's very, very sad news.
Thank you. And John, you will have I spent most of your Hibs watching life under Petrie's tenure as well, I would think, or a lot of it.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
I mean, after the debacle of the late 80s, it was actually quite refreshing to have it come in. I mean, I don't know whether I'm sure when he came in, there was lots of, oh, he's a rugby man, thrown at him, no interest in football, he just does finances. But what was quite clear that even if that's where he started, it's not where he finished. I mean, he's clearly a man who grew to love the club. I mean, little things that we forget. 2003, the Satanta deal goes belly up. Both us and Hearts are £17 million in debt. Only one club went bust. I mean, it wasn't ours. We traded our way out of that mess. Okay, it's the sale of the younger generation. But in that time, the butterfly con was done by the City of Edinburgh Council. I mean, sort of that robbed Sir Tom Farmer, sort of the development round about the ground. So there was lots of things going against the club at the time. But yeah, you look back over the 30 years, you look at the debacle that we were having sort of in that sort of Fenlon Butcher era, and they decided to take a change. I mean, that's where Leanne came in. So, I mean, so they'd gone and found a new direction. So I don't think he was as stodgy as he appeared on the outside. I was never fortunate enough to meet him. I mean, I lost at such a young age as well. 69's no age to be taken away from your family. So wishes are with them. But no, I think safe pair of hands, but actually a really creative pair of hands on many occasions as we went through in terms of where the stadium is now, where East Mains is now. I mean, where we are in terms of how we've transitioned from getting relegated and the rebirth of the club. I mean, I don't think we would be where we were now had they not made the right decisions 14, 15 years ago.
I agree with that. There was a good clip earlier on that Sky Sports had shared on Twitter. I think it was Luke Shanley who was asking the questions, and they asked Rod about like the difficult times, and he just said like it was kind of talking about how he was like in a privileged position, like in how much the club meant to him, and he just said there were no bad days. That was kind of how he worded it, and I thought, what like you could see how much the club meant to him. So, as you say, John, our thoughts and for everyone associated with the podcast are with Rod's friends and family and with the football club. So moving on to football. It was a bit of a tough night last night, Stephen. I'll get your thoughts on it first. It was another sellout crowd at Easter Road, and another night where it didn't quite go our way. What were your thoughts on it?
Mixed bag, really. Starting with the positives, I thought we came out and started the game magnificently. In fact, the 12-minute package of highlights, the first 2 minutes of the game was pretty much the first 2 minutes of the highlights. We came out and really pinned them back right from the get-go. And across the full match, we probably created more clear-cut chances than we've done against Midtjylland and Partizan at home across those two home legs, Matty. So to only get one goal was probably the biggest disappointment for me. Also as well, I thought when we pressed really well. When we attacked really well. But there was too much passiveness outside of the start of the game and the end of the game. There was too many individual errors that didn't in themselves lead to goals. You look at the second goal, Josh Campbell's getting a lot of hate for it. Yes, he loses the ball far too easily, but there's a couple of other examples thereafter where we could defend the cross better. The guy's run to the back post could be defended better as well. First goal, Cadden's header, I believe that was the first goal. Header could have either went back or out. Jordan Smith kind of palms it away, so that it's difficult to pinpoint one player for one error. But overall, I'll be honest, I think I put it in one of the group chats. I didn't see that team last night anywhere near the level of Midtjylland, which certainly gives me hope for next week. I thought in spells they didn't look any better or any worse than Partizan did last week. So I take great hope by the fact that we finished the game so strongly and got the goal to keep it back at a one goal game. If it remained 2-0, and I should caveat as well, it really should have went 3-0. That boy had an absolute sitter at the back post that God knows how he ballooned that over the bar. But we've got a chance, and I think based on the fact we were 2-0 down at half time, you could tell the crowd was really, really flat from that. based on how it was at the start. So taking over there with only a 1-goal deficit, I go in there with a lot of hope going into next week.
So I think that late goal was really important, wasn't it?
Yeah, you could sense just the stadium properly lifted. And for me, based on balance of chances created, we absolutely deserved at least 1 goal from the game. For the tie to be, for all intents and purposes, dead 2-0 going into the second leg, I don't think that would have been fair on the chances created. Yes, they had more of the ball. Yes, they had a bit more territory. Yes, they had maybe more possession in key areas. But based on balance of play, I don't really think Jordan's had too many difficult saves to make in the match.
I'd agree with that. Ian, I'm going to come at you next. I'm just going to catch a couple of the comments on YouTube. So Ronnie said, "Hi bangers, good to see you. Nice to see you too, Ronnie." Stevie said, "Evening all. Excuse me, harsh result last night. Honestly, they were nowhere near the levels of Mitchell under Partizan, but we lowered our levels to theirs." Green Tea said, "Evening all, disappointed last night, but still in the tie. R.I.P. Rod." Stevie said, "Our press is woeful in Europe. We're far too standoffish and allow others to get to halfway far too easily. Yet teams press us quickly and we go side to side rather than forward quick enough." Ian just said exuberance. Of course, exuberance, a phrase coined by Rod in the week of the 2016 final. Stevie said the squad really is capable of doing a lot more than the previous 30 or 40 years of Hibs. Why are we so lethargic going forward and pressing teams who are predictable, attacking and easy to read? And R.I.P. Rod. Keith said R.I.P. Rod. Steve said Rod was a Mr. Hibs character, over 20 years of service. Apparently, only missed a handful of games. Proper respect. Dan added an R.I.P. Rod Petrie. And Keith said disappointed with the result last night. We were too naive in our play. Quite out a game with the dark arts. Campbell and Boyle cannot start next week. Chaiwa and Clige to come in. Ian, what were your thoughts on the game?
This was the last of my games watching with my wife on the couch in France. And I asked Jackie about it earlier, and she said, Jackie doesn't know anything about football. She said, "I can't believe the chances they missed. Some of them were just ridiculous, the chances you missed. But they looked like," what she said was that we looked like we were just running about daft trying to score. Whereas every time that every time the Legia came forward, they looked dangerous. Where the tactics that we got right from the start, and I think the tactics are absolutely correct. We attacked them right from the start, which I think is what we should have done with Mitchell. We attacked them right from the start. I think the selection was right based on the tactics. So, to close down a comment there about the fact that we weren't pressing. Okay, we might not be pressing later on in the game, but we were at the start of the game, and that was the whole point, is that we selected to implement the tactics. So the tactics were to press right from the start, and we caused them just by closing down. They just panicked non-stop. So we were all over. And basically, the only thing that we failed on last night was finishing. We missed open goals. Mulligan, open goal. Bowie, open goal. Rocky, Cliche. It's incredible how many chances we had, especially at the start. And you just knew that it was going to come back to haunt us, the fact that we couldn't finish. But last night, the only thing we didn't do properly was finish. And I was very, very pleased with the way that we played, the way we started, the performances, substitutes as well. So David Green subbed right, kept the pressure on, and brought us back from the dead, basically. So I think there's a lot of things to be positive about last night. I think we should have beaten them, and we should have probably scored 3 out of 4 goals. I mean, we had 2 shots on target from 11 shots, and they had 4 shots on target from 13 shots. But Jordan Smith only had 2 saves today. So we had 20 touches inside the box, which is incredible. They had 18 touches inside the box. So we had a lot of pressure. We had a lot of chances. And the only thing we failed on last night was finishing. And I think we've got a really good chance next week because we've got nothing to lose.
Thank you very much. You're breaking up just a wee bit at the end, Ian, so I'm going to move on to Joe, but thank you for that. Joe, what were your thoughts on last night?
Well, I largely agree with what Ian's had to say. Hibs were suffering from what I would call brothelitis last night. They couldn't score in a brothel. It really was pretty grim. Having said that, I wonder if there's a bit of a hangover starting to happen with the Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. I think this was the fifth Thursday game that we had, and Gray had largely kept the same starting 11 for all of those games, other than the Livingston game last weekend. And I wonder if it needs a bit freshening up. And there's a couple of obvious ones. I mean, for me, I think Ardale's not been the player he was last season. Martin Boyle certainly hasn't been. Those two players I would rest. Boyle maybe come on as a second half substitute in the second tie next Thursday. I think really we need to bring. I think the Chaiwa, is it you pronounce it?
Chaiwa, yeah.
He's got to be a stick on to start the team. He is absolutely a midfield dynamo. The energy of the guy, and he hardly put a foot wrong. So there was a lot of positives, and getting that goal back, it's only 2-1 down. This tie is far from over. Come on, the Hibs.
What did you think of the team selection for the starting lineup, Joe?
On paper, it seemed okay. I wondered a bit why McGrath hadn't started. I thought he's maybe still carrying an injury, but he came on, in the second half, as we know, and so I was a bit surprised at that. But on paper, it seemed like, yeah, it's the team that has been working so far this season. But I'd go back to what I said a minute ago. I just wonder if there's someone getting a bit leggy, and certainly, Iredale hasn't been the same player as he was last season. They got him an extended contract, and Martin Boyle, he needs resting, just as he got rested last season, if you recall.
That's right, yeah, he did.
And then he came back a better player. He might be the captain in everything but name at the moment, but I think that you should rest those two. For me, why are we not starting our £1 million player, Pridgey, because he looks promising, very promising.
Yeah, I thought he looked good when he came on, didn't he?
Unlucky not to score with his header. 60 minutes at the weekend too.
Right, John, I'm going to come to you in just a second to catch up on a couple of the comments on YouTube. So Neo167 said, "Evening Hibs, RIP to Rod. His legacy will live on with the achievements he brought to the club. Little disappointed with the result. Still haven't seen the offside before the pen. Assume it was on." Stevie said, on the subject of the penalty, "I think the reason the ref gave it was because the ball was clearly going in the net. First thing I done was look at the ref, and at the time he patted his chest. Legia were so beatable. We will regret last night if we lose over the two legs. How we went in 2-0 down at half time, I have no idea. I just wish Gray would take the shackles off and go for it." Dan said, "So many chances, could have been so different. Still in it." Mikey said, "Still in the tie. Campbell should not be in any Hibs side." We Are Hibs said, "Need to be more clinical and more focused. Third goal conceded in first half injury time so far this season. Conceded solely against Midtjylland and Belgrade too. And we need to also be more aggressive off the ball in the second half of games. First half, we caused high turnovers and got chances for them. Didn't see that happening in the second half. Understand they want to keep shape and on board with that. And at some point, you have to increase the pressure or you're stuck doing doggies in the middle of the park." I think when we get to the talk of doing doggies in the middle of the park, we probably want to leave that. John, it's probably as good a point as any to come at you. What were your thoughts on the game last night?
I loved the start. I thought that we were up for it. I think sort of the first quarter of the game and the last quarter of the game, we absolutely battered a really quite clever and quite skillful side. The surprise I think we've probably all got is that the level that we're playing in these competitions isn't the through the roof level that we were expecting.
Yep.
So I think it's that idea of these were winnable. The penalty, and I just think it's a joke. If I'm brutally honest about it, how you can be bringing your arms in across your body to reduce your silhouette and do everything that a defender's been asked to do and still give away a penalty. Though I don't know what the law. I saw something suggesting the laws changed again over the summer. Yeah, they just need to get. If the referee has followed what IFAB have told them to do, I have no criticism of the referee. But IFAB need to get themselves sorted out. And I thought that changed because of how long that took.
Yeah.
I mean, when it first came up, I think everybody thought, "Oh, that's never a penalty." And the longer and longer we've got used to what VAR does, if they're having to look, if it's taken that long, the guy in the video room's thinking, "I'm going to get my arse kicked if I didn't call this out." I'll dump it onto the referee because it's the referee to make the decision. The referee's thinking, if I make anything other than a penalty decision here, I'm going to get marked down in the stand. I mean, you know where it's going. Smith almost gets to it. I mean, it's a good penalty. Completely undeserved at that point. And I think that took a little bit of the stuffing out of the ground. I think it took a little bit of the stuffing out of the team. Do I think Campbell was having the greatest of games? No. But I think Dylan Levitt needs to have a big kick up the arse for the ball that he played him. I mean, that he lost at halfway line. I mean, Dylan is under pressure himself, left-hand side of the penalty area, plays it to a midfielder who's got 5 players round about him. That tells me there was space somewhere else in the park, and I'm expecting Levitt to find the space somewhere else rather than put it into a player that's going to lose it. There's more mistakes that come after it, but the ball the chipped ball across to the back post is so sweet. I mean, you can't. That wasn't just defenders getting it wrong. That was a lovely chipped ball that dipped right down. We'd be loving it if any of our guys did it, but not. Mulligan has to get a shot away in 58 seconds or whatever it was. Rocky has to get his headers on the target. So there's so many positives that come out of it. The fight back in terms of the second half. But no, I think that the referee was inconsistent. There was that 5-minute period before half time where nobody could commit a foul. Everybody was getting kicked up in the air and he was just letting it go for both teams. And then there was points where the wind was blowing in the wrong direction, somebody fell over and it was yellow cards. It was that sort of inconsistent referee that you get in Europe. But no, I think that we saw, I think for Campbell, my comment would be that the level of the players that he was up against compared to the level of players he played at Livingston on Sunday showed that he's got to now find a new level above where he's been playing. I mean, to continue with the team. There's no lack of effort, there's no lack of desire, there's that idea that he's got to lift his skill set.
I think that I saw, I can have heard it, and I certainly repeated it since last night. Somebody describing the situation with Josh Campbell is the standard of the team round about him has come up. He hasn't quite risen with it, yeah, and I think you notice it more a bit now. Ian, you got your hand up. I'll just I'll bring you in, and I'll come back to you. Get your thoughts for the second leg.
Yeah, I agree with John on the pass that Dylan Levitt gave Josh Campbell. But I just want to be clear with Joe. The reason Josh Campbell was playing from the start was to implement the tactics that David Gray decided on. So we decided from outset to attack them and to close them down really quickly. So Kieran Bowie, Martin Boyle and Josh Campbell were all closing them down. And that is why they panicked. For the first 15 minutes, they were just kicking the ball anywhere. And that's because we were closing them down. Now, obviously, Josh Campbell got himself booked. And that spoiled his game at that point. But basically, that is the reason why Josh Campbell was playing. Because he was the best guy to implement the tactics of closing them down really quick. So it's not the other way around. You don't just say, "Oh, I'm going to play these guys because I really like them." You say, "What are the tactics I'm going to use against this team, and who's the best people to implement them?" That's why Josh Campbell was playing.
Joe, do you want to respond to that, or are you okay?
Yes, that's a fair point, Ian. But I now think we've got a player that can do the chasing down like that in Chegwa. If that's how you pronounce his name.
Chaiwa.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Josh Campbell, he's not up to the mark. You can't make a purse out of sow's ear. He's not up to the mark, in my view.
No, but it's really funny, Joe, because only last. It was funny. I was talking to my wife today, and she said, "You know what it's going to be like? Everybody was saying we were brilliant. Everybody was saying the House are brilliant 2 weeks ago. You and me were agreeing it was the best squad we've ever seen, right? And now, as soon as we lose a game, we start slagging off individual players, which is utterly useless. But I think Chaiwa might actually have trouble pronouncing your name, Joe.
Touche.
John.
Well, Ian, I think that the Campbell situation, Campbell has played partly because McGrath's injured. He's come back from an injury. And Gray's for the past season and a bit, he's consistently brought players back from injury very carefully. I mean, a respect for them coming back. So him, McGrath not starting, then meant that it's either Campbell that plays there, it's Elliott that plays there, or it's Rudy that plays there. I mean, I don't think you're going to start with all three strikers on the pitch to start with, because that means you've no strikers in the last 15, 20 minutes because you've nobody to bring off the bench. And out the three options, whilst I love Ellie and I would love him on, and if I'm picking the team, I'd probably put Ellie in ahead of Campbell just because of the way he's performed so far this season, the games that he's been on, the chasing he's done, and he's been unselfish. But I can see why Campbell played. But I think our options in that position are more limited than it feels. And if we start putting more people into central mid and throwing people out around the pitch, you're disrupting the whole system for one position.
Joe, there's a comment on YouTube for you. Is from Ian, different Ian. He said, "Would Joe be okay with replacing Levitt with Chaiwa next week?"
Yes, because Levitt was very poor last night. I'd be the first to, although I'm a Levitt fan, as you all know, I'd be the first to agree he had a very, very poor game last night.
I thought Legia did a good job on Levitt. I thought they did a good job on Bowie as well. Get both of them quiet. I think they deserve like a bit of credit for it. Gecko said we need to revert back to the 3-5-2, packing the midfield with a 3 as opposed to what looks like a 3-4-3, which collapses into a back 5 on the defence. Midfield 3 is Chaiwa, Mulligan, and McGrath. Stephen, what do you think of that approach then? Is the tweak to the system causing us problems?
Yeah, yes, I think it is. I would agree with an earlier comment that Boyle needs a rest. I would probably go one beyond saying he needs a rest. I'd say he needs replaced because of form, to be quite honest. I don't think he's bringing anywhere near the level that he can. And I'm loath as to work out why he isn't, because there's competition in the squad. I don't know if he's just carrying the mantra of captain, he's an automatic pick, but I said a few weeks ago that the man was born offside. Playing him in such an advanced position is a risk because he's never on side. So there goes potentially your quick ball over the top of your counter attack. So I would, to keep him on his toes, I wouldn't start Boyle next week. I would use him as an impact sub personally. Yes, I probably would go back to the 3-5-2. I don't think David Gray is ambitious or stupid enough to go with 3-4-3 away from home to a team that will have most of the ball. So I think we really need to have the highly packed midfield in that 3 of Chai. I would still go with Levitt. I thought when Levitt went off, even though he hadn't had the greatest of game, I think you could see that he wasn't on the pitch anymore. And that is a risk if you take him off. And also, if you don't start him, you've obviously then not got him until he comes on off the bench. I would go, if McGrath is capable of getting through 90 or at least 70, 80 minutes, McGrath needs to come back in, because Josh Campbell, the earlier comment that he's not rising with the quality of the rest of the squad and also the opposition. I think that you can see that in certain games. So I'd go back to the 3-5-2 and drop Boyle.
Okay, Joe, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, basically, I think McGrath, had he started, it might have made a different fist of the whole thing. I think if we play 3-5-2, okay, Levitt had a poor game last night, but I echo what's just been said. If you had played a midfield 5 of Mulligan, McGrath, Levitt, Chaiwa, and Nicky Cadden, think about it for a minute, and move Obita to left back, because I think Ardell needs a bit of a rest too, and definitely Boyle. I quite agree with what's just been said. Boyle definitely needs a rest. I think he's 33 now, isn't it? And he hasn't. I mean, he played all games, including the Livingston game, which a lot of them have arrested for.
Yeah.
The Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. All of those games in a trot, I think, starting to tell to give Boyle a bit of credit.
Stephen, you had your hand up?
Yeah, there was actually just one thing I completely forgot I was going to say. When we took Iredale off and switched Obita to the left of the back 3 and had Cadden, it made me think that we need to somehow try and find a system or formation that gets Obita and Cadden both in the same team. But like Scotland did with Robertson and Tierney by playing one at left back and one almost at left wing, because I think relying on just one of them to start in that sort of left wing back role, you're depriving yourself of having the other one on the pitch at the same time. So yes, Iredale hasn't been quite at the level he was at last season, and on the flip side, O'Hara's actually really stepped up to get to that level. So I wonder if it's a risk worth taking to go with the back three with Abita left of the back three, which I know is a huge risk, but then it becomes technically a support for Nicky Cadden up the left. Cadden's had enough minutes, I think, to be close to match sharpness, and he's not had enough minutes to still be fresh to go the full 90, potentially 120. So if we can, because I actually thought when they were both on the pitch last night, they were working quite well together on the left hand side as we grew strong towards the end of the game, as John picked up. So if we can kind of find some way to get them both in the team and still retain that defensive rigidity, that's what I would be looking to do on Thursday as well, Matty. So I completely forgot I was going to mention that point.
That's right. John, on the 3-5-2 point, is it the fact that we didn't have a Triantis type player that's prevented the 3-5-2? Because that was it was sort of his introduction into that number 6 role last season that saw us shift to the 3-5-2. Could Chaiwa fill that gap?
And if I'm honest, I think it's the fact that our 3-5-2 is actually a 5-3-2 or a 5-2-3. I mean, I think it's because we're playing that flat five. Stephen's point about Nicky Cadden, I think that's been crucial in so many games, is the fact that if you go back to the really successful spell of last season, Nicky Cadden was the first name on the team sheet at left wing back, and his deliveries into the box were an absolute dream and put so many teams under pressure. His deliveries from set pieces. So we now have him as a lefty and McGrath as a righty for set pieces. That to me is more of a factor in getting the fullbacks from in line with the centre backs to in line with the first midfielders. I think that we have a different midfield in terms of Mulligan, McGrath, and Levitt, and I think that balance nullifies Triantis, who I think is now away to America.
He is, yeah. Ian, your hand up.
I just wanted to say one of the successes last night was Jordan Smith. I realised he only had 2 saves to make, which are really major, but Jordan Smith looked really good. His distribution was terrific. He was really moving the ball about. But I just wanted to say something about the Livy game, because obviously the Livingston game was a joy because we won. But it's funny because I'm usually at the games and I'd probably be ecstatic about, hey, we beat Livingston. But it was amazing how the commentators, if you're watching on telly, were effectively saying, like, Livingston are still in this game. Yeah, all it needed was one slip up. And so it was exactly the same with the game against Dundee, exactly the same against Killie. We still looked a bit shaky. It was really enjoyable, but and obviously we managed to switch out 6 players, which is great. But so certainly last night I was pleased to see Jordan in there and playing well. But the games against Dundee and Killie and Livingston, I don't think we've been as dominant as I think that we think afterwards. Just a small thing on Martin Boyle. Really, Martin Boyle was the guy that scored 2 against Partizan away. We can't drop Martin Boyle. If he's not our top scorer, I didn't get who is.
John, where do you stand on Boyle? No heard your view yet. I think we've heard from everybody else on Martin Boyle, so I'll get your thoughts.
I think Martin Boyle offside has become too easy for commentators this season. It's probably taken over for Yogi, slagging him off about his speedos. I think, having watched Legia on Sunday in the flesh and actually seen how fast he is, I said the other week that he's different to Bowie. We'll have to see what kind of player he is. He is effective in the air. He's had a cracking goal against Livingston. Was clearly gutted by the fuck that he came out with after missing the header last night. He is really class. He's really fast. He's got a really good touch. And I would be really, really tempted to start him. Simply because I think that Martin coming on I mean, one of them will start, one of them will finish. I would probably rather have Martin finishing. I mean, coming on from the 60th minute, because my reckoning is that if we're going to go through next week, we're going to go through an extra time. So I'd rather have Boyle coming on at 60, 65 minutes as the normal first tranche of stuff goes. I think he is getting older. He is challenging himself in terms of his pace. He's worried that he's not as fast as he used to be, and he's pushing the line just a bit too much. And I think that for a competitive player who's always trying to get that edge, it's going to be difficult to coach that away from him. And I'd be surprised if Clegy continues where he's going. I mean, we've had strikers who've come in from foreign land and scored in the cup away from home. I mean, Melkerson comes to mind at Motherwell. I mean, and it all looks brilliant. So it's trying not to overbuild on that. But I thought he looked good when he came on last night as well, Clegy. So I think that the recruitment's been good there. So yeah, I would
well said, John. You're spot on in everything you just said.
I mean, I would drop him, but not because Boyle deserves to be dropped. I think Clegy has done enough in the 2 games to earn the spot. Because if you're comparing the 2 players for the 90 minutes they've played over the 2 games, Clegy is the one that has looked most effective. Boyle's not given us anything from set pieces. He's not adding. There's no other dimension to his game other than running in, and he can provide that later in the game.
Okay, thank you. Danny said, hopefully McGrath, Chaiwa and Levitt next week in the middle with Mulligan at wing back. Stevie said Campbell has no natural position. He's not a midfielder, a winger or a forward, and we don't play a number 10. Danny said Campbell and Chris Cadden are fine against poorer teams, but not at this level. Campbell in particular should be nowhere near it. Green Tea said, well said, other John. Stevie said Campbell has been a passenger for long enough. He done nothing last night. Dan says Chaiwa is miles better. No offence to Campbell, just a fact. We Are Hibs said Campbell is good enough to be part of the squad. He's able to do well in the top flight, and his energy and off the ball work makes a difference in domestic games. On the European stage, not at the level. Dan says think Clegy should get a start. Kieran said everyone said the same about Hanlon and Stevenson. We're a better team without them. Put emotion aside, Campbell is lucky to get any minutes. Ronnie says he also thinks Salinger should play next week, better with the ball at his feet, and I have a feeling he will be better at pens. Kieran said we're playing against athletes with quality in Europe, which I think Levitt struggles with. He can match the quality, but not the running power. Jack C. 99 Vlog says hello. Kieran says the thing is with Boyle, he's not running offside, he's standing offside. We are 10 men a lot of the time. The offside, Stephen, is it becoming an issue, or how big an issue is it?
I think it is. I honestly really do think it is becoming quite an issue, Matty. It stifles probably going forward the confidence in playing that ball over. For a man with so much natural pace and having played at a good level his entire career, the apparent lack of ability to time the run and stay on side is quite simply baffling, to be honest. I don't know if it's maybe because he's playing as an out-and-out striker now versus maybe playing just behind or playing off the wing, but it is a real concern for me, because eventually if he keeps getting caught offside, they're going to stop making that pass and we're going to lose that part of the attack that we've had. So I think it's becoming, I mean, I'm like Joe with the Levitt loving. I'm now the Martin Boyle offside hating. That's what it feels like just now. I think it is becoming a huge issue.
I think there's is it 3 goals that we've had chopped off for offside just in the European games with Boyle. I think one away in Midtjylland, Bowie's goal. In fact, was that Partizan? They got chopped off, and Cadden had one at Easter Road as well. Mm-hmm. It's maybe a good point that you make there, because I think when you're playing wider, it's easier to see along the line, isn't it? I think if you're playing centrally, you need to sort of check both sides to see where the line is. Probably is a bit harder to stay on side. It certainly seemed to be a problem for Colin Nish back in the day. He's like the most offside player I've ever seen up until until recent version Martin Boyle. Joe, if looking ahead to next Thursday, then there's only a goal in the tie. How would you set up to try and get a result over in Poland?
Well, I mean, listen to what's been said, and notwithstanding me and all disagree, because I think Boyle should be it. I would have Smith in goal, a back three of Ahura, Rocky, and Obita, And then a midfield five of Mulligan on the right, McGrath, my pal Levitt, Chaiwa, and Nicky Cadden, with Bowie and Klidgey up front.
It's a decent sounding team. I think we do have options. Like I know with Ian, you referenced there about us kind of talking about the best squad, and you sort of see it there with the players becoming available when back from injury and everything. We do look like we've got options to change it up. Ian, same question to you. If you're looking ahead to next week, how would you be setting us up to get a result?
Well, I mean, last night the only thing that we did wrong was not finish. That's the only thing we did wrong, And so, I don't want to overreact to it. I don't think we can go out and attack the way we did right from the start. So I think that naturally, that change of tactics naturally changes the squad. Now, Jordan Abita put across the ball for a goal. And Jordan Abita is playing very, very well. So I'd hesitate to put on Nicky Cadden from the start. But Nicky, certainly I wouldn't change the back three at all. Josh Mulligan did play better than Chris Cadden did when he went to wing back. So I'd probably play Josh Mulligan there. I wouldn't start Legia. I'd certainly leave Kieran Bowie there. But I would I'd probably bring in Chaiwa. I would definitely keep Dylan Levitt, but Chaiwa in the middle with Levitt, I think is good. I mean, I wouldn't start early, and there's so many options we've got. But I think I wouldn't change too much from last night. I think we played very well. Our finishing was just awful, and everyone who finished really badly last night is the players that people have not been criticising. So the people that missed the easy chances last night, they're the ones that obviously are culpable for our failure last night, and so not the others that we've been talking about. And so we've got to finish. We've just got to finish, but we've got to attack. And I don't think we can necessarily break as well as they do. I think they'll sit in more, and I think they'll try and hit us in the break like they were towards the end of the game last night. So I think we've got a good chance, with nothing to lose. I think there's a very good chance of us actually getting through the tie. I really do.
Nice one, John. What about you? How would you be setting us up?
I think I'd be my temptation is that it's how 3-4-3 you want to go. I've got no. I'm a Beta or Iredale. It doesn't bother me because I think we have to have Nicky Cadden playing on the left-hand side. I mean, in terms of starting the game. And that's based on performances from last season, what we're hoping for from this season, and effectiveness from dead balls. Because we have to look at the idea that set pieces could be really crucial for us. And the delivery from set pieces that he gives us is brilliant. I think the three up front are McGrath, Bowie, and Klidgey. It's one of these where I could quite happily see Mulligan and Levitt still in midfield with Chris Cadden on the right. That's not going to worry me if I see that, because I know the changes that are going to come later in the game. And there's a bit of me would rather that a team that can look over the shoulders and have played together, I mean, for sort of 4 weeks straight, that know where everybody is. I understand what people are saying about Mulligan being on the right. I think he's a bit like Nicky Cadden. There is a defensive weakness there. In behind, because he is really good at ball carrying, so he will get caught higher up the pitch. So I would be tempted to have the two Caddens as my wing backs.
Yep. And Stephen, what were you?
In my head, I hypothesised a side very, very similar, if not identical, to Joe's. I think John makes an excellent point there about the strength down the wings and keeping Mulligan potentially more in the middle. I guess it all comes down to how David Gray sees us getting back into the tie, because we have to score. My thoughts would be quite solid defensively, try and keep it at 0-0 as long as possible. Certainly don't concede the first goal. Prioritise your set pieces with the Cadden delivery into the box. Because I would imagine over there, I think it's quite a hostile home crowd. So if we can keep it at 0-0 for as long as possible, that might start to turn and work in our favour. And another thing, in the regulation 90 minutes, we've lost 2 of the 3 home ties, whereas away from home, we've drew 1 and won 1. So we have actually performed better away from home. And in both ties, we've certainly for the Midtjylland game, we had less of the ball, and for parts of the Partizan game, we had less of the ball as well. So maybe we are better playing away from the expectation of a 19,500 crowd at Easter Road. So that may actually work in our favour as well. So I would certainly go 3-5-2, and I'd probably almost mirror exactly what Joe said from a starting 11.
Cool. I believe that Lewis Stevenson's just scored in the Fife Derby, by the way. Just if anybody's interested in that, Lewis popping up a goal. Thank you to everybody who mentioned that on the comments. One of the things that came up earlier on that I'd be interested to get folks' thoughts on, so just jump in if you have a view on it, the concessional late goals. So whether it's the end of the first half or last seconds of extra time or injury time in the 90, we've conceded goals like that. What do you guys put that down to? Does anybody have a thought on that?
Yeah, game management is what David Crary recognised it as, and I think it's consistently we try and put the ball, we try and sort of clear the ball, we just give it back to the opposition. So we just got to hold on to it better. We're just giving the ball away in what we think are innocuous places. So I think it's down to what David Gray says, game management.
Game management. John, you get a hand up.
I think statistics can tell you anything you want if you treat the numbers rough enough. I think that the thing for me, the goal just before halftime yesterday was a peach of a ball. I mean, it's the quality of the ball from the striker to the back post that creates that. Closing down, yes, but there wasn't an awful lot done wrong. You could go back to, as I did to Dylan Levitt, but in terms of our shape, in terms of what we were doing, we didn't look as if we were blowing out our backsides. We didn't look as if we were in panic mode. It was just a bit of class that took it away from us. Again, when you go back to the Michelin goal, Mulligan loses a runner. I mean, and at this level, and this is it. We're playing at a level that is beyond most of the teams we play week in, week out. So the threshold for you to get punished is lower. I mean, they just have the ability to pick it out. I don't think that there is any falling back. I don't think we're back to the start of last season where it looked as if we were really, really fragile. I just think that for all the games, both teams, all games, it feels as if Partizan, last night, Michelin, the teams have been going for it all the time. So the goals have come at different points. So yeah, pick numbers will tell you what you want to hear, and if you play basketball, then you get shots at both ends.
Fair enough. Joe, is it just a case of exactly as John's saying there? It's about we're playing at a higher level, and when you do switch off for that split second, you do get punished for it.
Possibly. I'll go back to an important point Ian made about although we did okay in our two opening Premier games with a draw and a victory, neither of them are overly convincing. And I wonder if part of that is the Thursday, Sunday thing that I referred to earlier, and tiredness is starting to come in. And so maybe just by freshening up 2 or 3 key positions, and we've already echoed, most of us in agreement about what those might be. I think David Gray isn't stupid. He'll see all of these things that his long bangers are kicking around. So I think he'll tweak it, and I think we'll do the business next Thursday.
Okay, John, you had up.
I was just to say, I mean, we were the ones that scored the late goal last night. They should have been 3-0 up. They blew it. We're the ones that got the goal with 4 minutes to go. So they were the ones that were rocking back on their heels. And we were probably the ones in that part of the game who were going to have a chance to get the other one. And in terms of the Thursday, Sundays, on Sunday, we played Livingston, and that was the first time that I think Colin says it quite regularly, and yourself, we should be going into these games against Livingston. We have a far superior budget, and it should show on the pitch. On Sunday, it showed on the pitch. I mean, Livingston, bar a 10-minute, put all the big guys up front and just lob the ball in on them. I mean, barely troubled us. I mean, so I think that the Thursday, Sundays have played out. The squad's come together. He's got fitness into players, so he could rotate 6 at the weekend. I mean, that's all showing. Just if Boyle had let Ellie go through in the ball against Midtjylland, and for him to pass it to Nicky Cadden to get the 2-1 victory would have been playing some Finnish side. I mean, for a go at the Europa.
Vince said 3-5-2 is a must. It's how we were successful to get in this position. Freshen up a couple of spots, but the squad will be required to get us through this tie. Stephen, you got your hand up?
Yeah, it's just to come back in with a completely random bit of trivia on what John said there. That Finnish team that Midtjylland are playing are managed by none other than Hibs legend Jarkko Viss, which I discovered last week.
Are they?
So there you go. Yeah,
There you
they
go.
are. And they obviously responded to that fact by getting hammered last night. So he's still haunting us 25 years later, nearly. So I just thought I would add that in. I couldn't believe it when I read that the other day.
No worries, right? Stephen, just while you're on there, what's the score going to be on Thursday? Then how's it going to pan out?
I think it'll be a very, very nervous night. I'm going to rely on how good and how regimented we've been away from home in both ties so far. So I'm going to go 1-0 in the 90, and we somehow get through extra time despite being absolutely battered, and we take them in penalties.
And then go through, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Joe, score prediction for you?
2-1 for us. Extra time. And we score again in extra time. We don't need the penalties.
Nice, I'll take that. John, how about you?
2-0 in the 90. Boyle coming on in the last half hour, tearing them up and getting two. just to prove us all wrong.
And Ian?
I agree with all my colleagues. I'm travelling with confidence next week. I got my ticket today, so I'll be going there with confidence. I think we'll win. I think we'll come out of it probably like the guys say, extra time. But I don't think they'll go to penalties. But and as John says, Boyle will score and shut us all up.
Brilliant. Well, we'd love to see it. So we'll wrap up there. Thanks very much, guys, for taking your time on a Friday night to join us, and for everybody watching it. Thank you. Colin and John and myself will be back on Sunday night to do our usual Long Bangers episodes, and for subscribers, we'll have extra time on Monday as well. But I think we will probably take the time to look back properly at Rod Petrie's time at Hibs and the highs and the lows, and we'll have a conversation around that to mark his passing. If you want to subscribe, you can do it here on YouTube, or you can go to our Patreon and you'll find a wee link there. There is a 7-day free trial as well. So if you want to give it a shot without committing to anything, you can definitely do that. Thanks very much again, and we will see you all next time.
Cheers.